The Dime 3-2, also known as the dollar defense, is one of the best defenses in this game right now. It comes equipped with some of the best sheds in the game, just sending 3 or sending 2, but it also has some decent ways in which we can craft what I call timer blitzes, or blitzes that are going to essentially make your opponent feel the pressure without actually sending that much pressure and kind of making them uncomfortable within the pocket. Dollar offers you the best switch stick defense in the game, the best coverage in the game, the defense that essentially can defend the pass, typically the best every single year in Madden. It's just in this year's game, it's relatively limited in terms of the pressure aspect. However, there are some cool things that you can do to craft some pressure out of this. So as far as personnel and things like that, what I would encourage you to do is put your number one pass rusher, really just on your defensive line in general. You want 3 good pass rushers. Ideally, you want them all to have the double or nothing ability if you are in Ultimate Team or CFM. Now, if you're in regs, right, you just want to put your best pass rushers down there. And then you do want to put 2 safeties, and you want those safeties to have high change of direction at these linebacker positions. And then that allows you to put your best D-line on the field. Now, as far as coach adjustments for this defense, you're going to go with auto flip defensive play call off, defensive motion response disabled, option read key conservative, option pitch key aggressive, RPO read and RPO pass key are both going to be on conservative. And then what I like to do with dollar is go ahead and put my safety depth on close and my safety width on pinch. Now, the core of how we're going to actually run this defense is we're going to be in the dime 3-2. We're going to go to the really doesn't necessarily matter that much, but I typically go with the cover 2 shell here. That way I could come out in any play and it pretty much is going to look the same regardless of it. Now, the base play that I'm going to recommend that you come out in pretty much every single time is this cover 3 buzz match. So the way that I like to run this cover 3 buzz match is you're just going to slant your defensive line to the right. I like to go ahead and shade my coverage underneath. And then if you want to inside quarter, play a little cover 4 out of this, you certainly can do that, or you could leave the hook curl, up to you. As far as how my user responsibility here, I like to kind of hover in this general area, take a little step to the outside to the right side. And this is, as I said, a timer blitz. The blitz is not 100% consistent. Randomly, you will get pressure out of this, but it's not something that's like a crazy consistent, loop blitz. It's the best loop blitz that I've seen in this game, or at least one of the better ones. But in general, if they're going to be, they're going to be able to block it for the most part. The biggest thing here is just the ability to, switch stick around and be able to have good coverage. This is going to make them uncomfortable with scrambling. This is going to make them uncomfortable in the pocket as a whole. It's going to be good contain, and that's really why, I like this defense as a whole. You're going to get amazing sheds if you have double or nothing on those defensive ends as well. Now, what will randomly happen in this defense, and we'll see if we can get one rep of it happening here, is the defensive tackle will sometimes, he will just basically glitch through the A-gap and get pressure. Doesn't happen a lot, but if it happens once or twice a game, right, this is a really good defense in that situation. And then obviously the switch stick out of this is unmatched. It's by far the best switch stick defense in the game, and that's really the whole point of running it. Now, another way to run this defense out of dollar is to go to really any of these base plays like cover 3 hard flat, for example. And what we're going to do here is we're just going to walk this blitzer over to this side, and this is going to create a B-gap loop. A lot of times this loop is just a little bit different, and it can also give you decent pressure out of the dollar formation. You can do this out of other plays like cover 4 quarters, and you also don't always have to loop right to left or left to right. It's really up to you however you want to do it. But essentially, if you get there, you see the defensive tackle glitch through, and that's what can happen, as you can see here with this. And this will happen with the A-gap loop as well. Sometimes this defensive tackle, right, they kind of mess up their pass-off logic, and sometimes that defensive tackle just basically gets an instant win up the middle. That is what's going to really put them on that timer as well. Now, another thing here is if I move this guy over here to this side, you'll see that this guy will still loop to the A-gap. So it's another variation of how you could run it. So then the nice part about that is, you could be in an A-gap loop, but it looks like a B-gap loop. And so they might set up different protection, different sliding, different things like that. But all the while you're in that A-gap loop blitz. So those are a couple of, like I call them, the passive pressure elements of this defense. Another thing you could do, let's say you want to run like Tampa 2 drop or something, any base play like this, if you blitz the linebacker, he'll actually stay blitzing over onto that side, as you can see. And then you can, feel free to contain if you want to contain, but basically There's your B-gap loop, and you see how this pressure can cause some trouble. Now, this pressure is also pretty consistent regardless of empty or base protection. I've been showing you most of these reps out of empty protection. If we do base protection, you're going to see it's pretty much the same in terms of how they're going to pick this up. And what I like about this, again, the whole point of the defense, it's not that it has the best blitz in the world, it's that the coverage from this is super, super effective. And so when you pair good coverage with a glitchy pressure like that, all of a sudden you have yourself a nice little 7-4 defense. Now, what I'll also do within this defense here is I'll do something like this where I put the linebacker in hook, and then I inside quarter this guy on the left or on the right and just simply play cover 4 drop. I like to play defense this way as well. I just think, cover 4 drop situationally is good, especially if you got good sheds in this game. This is going to help you get more stops as well as to send pressure like that. That's what I call just my coverage setup, right? We're just going to send 3, play coverage. Another thing that you can do out of this defense, though, is you can send an overload blitz. So the way that I like to send overload blitzes out of this, and this is why I love this cover 3 buzz match, if I leave this cover 3 as it is right now, and let's say I blitz this slot corner, what you're going to see here is a lot of times it'll either get the slot corner or the A-gap blitzer will come in completely free. It just depends a little bit on how the offensive line chooses to pick this up. But this is an overload blitz concept, right, that you can use to get good pressure. And you see there that slot corner. If I ever wanted to really ramp up the pressure a little bit, that's one way in which you can accomplish that. Another thing you could do if you want to ramp up the pressure a little bit is send the backside slot corner. So what I might individually press the running back, and then I'll send this corner like this. And as you see, this is a send 5, and typically that corner or the linebacker will give you some semblance of pressure here. Again, it's not something that I do a ton. Normally, it's just going to be this send 4, but every now and then, right, we'll mix in some send 5s, just depending on how they're doing at pressure management, how the sheds are doing. If the sheds aren't really going in, then I'll add a little bit of pressure as well. Another thing you can do from this is you could flip this formation. As you see, it puts this linebacker down in the gap like this. And then if I put this slot corner on the edge, you basically just have a send 5 overload blitz as well, just like we were talking about. But we're just going to send it this way. And what typically happens here is this guy will actually get untargeted at times. It depends a little bit on what they're doing protection-wise. But as you see, you can send 5 that way as well and be able to get pretty decent pressure in the game. So these are just different techniques that I'll use throughout a game to be able to get pressure. And if I want to drop the backside D end off, I can drop that, just send 4 people, and you see I'll still be able to overload that side and still get that slot corner to come in. All in all, I think Dollar ultimately is primarily, right, a shed defense or a passive pressure defense. It's not something that you're going to get a ton of instant sacks on. However, that being said, I think that this formation bodes the best switch stick in the game, the best defense for switch stick, the best coverage that you can really have in this entire game. And that is what makes Dollar really relevant.